This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. It's a chilly Monday here in Pittsburgh, but the show must go on.
Yeah, it's sunny though, snow's melting, but, it was a chilly walk through the wind tunnel here,
Well,
though.
of
I'll tell
course,
you that, right?
up here on Mount Olympus. But, Matt, I thought we would take a look at something here. This is something that I've talked about in the past, where everybody says, just wait until next year to draft this or that or the other
I know.
thing.
It makes me a little crazy.
So what I wanted to do here to kick off today's show is go back and look at Field Yates' his initial mock draft, his preseason mock draft from this year.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that used to be Tom McShay's job, and I vividly remember talking to him a couple times, like my least favorite thing to do all year, because people hold you to it, and we're kind of holding Field to it, but it just gives you an idea of
how things change over the course of the season.
Drastically. And there's so many quarterbacks, the Carson Wentz's of the world, the Baker Mayfields, that never would have been on a list like this to end up getting the top three in there.
That's what he says here. He's like, look, last year, Jaden Daniels didn't make the preseason
Makes sense.
list.
Right. I'm sure Cam Ward's not on there because he was a transfer too, and late in his career and all that. Right.
So this came out August 21st of last year.
Okay, this is well after the draft.
Right before the college football season started.
The Monday after, when we would do nothing less than that.
I also want to remind people that the teams here were placed where, because this is interesting as well, who they had picking where based on the Vegas overs and unders. And things of that nature.
It might even been for ESPN. It might have been their version of
their
it too.
FBI or whatever.
But it's not Fields' opinion.
No,
I think the Steelers are going to be first or 32nd or whatever. Right.
So
I bet Washington's pretty high.
He had the Giants picking first, but they traded up with New England, who he thought would have the first overall pick.
Okay.
And taking Carson Beck.
How about that?
Quarterback out of Georgia. He's not even at Georgia anymore.
No, and he wasn't particularly good. No, right.
Your number one overall pick.
Yeah. And I'm not saying I know anything, but he never passed a sniff test to me as a high pick anyway. I mean, I saw enough of him at Georgia saying, I don't see first round traits with this guy. Right.
Nor did I. Number two, he had the Carolina Panthers taking James Pierce Jr., the edge rusher out of Tennessee. Still considered a first-round talent,
right?
But not the number two overall pick.
No, probably not even the first edge rusher in a good edge rusher class,
yeah.
Right? But no, he was on lists for a while, yeah.
At three, he had the Denver Broncos taking Kelvin Banks Jr., the offensive tackle out of Texas.
Another high-profile guy that had a nice career and more or less lived up to it, but he had a better 2023 than 2024.
Yeah. At four, he has the Tennessee Titans, who own the first number one overall pick this year.
How about Denver, though, out kicking their coverage, too? Yeah.
Taking Shedeur Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado.
That's one that's kind of held up. I'm not the biggest Sanders fan at all.
No, I'm not either.
Yeah.
At five, he has the Washington Commanders.
I knew they were going to be soon, and they ended up being a Final Four team. Yeah.
Taking Michael Williams, edge rusher out of Georgia.
Okay, that one
held up.
The pick is pretty legit, right?
At six, the Patriots, after trading back with the Giants, so he had the Giants at six, which I believe that's where they are at.
I think they're three, aren't they?
Oh, maybe they are three. They are three. The Jets, I think, are 6 or 7.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because New York can't have nice things, thank goodness. Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan.
Pretty much held up.
Yeah.
He had some injuries this year, too, and, I hear he might not run great, but that's all right.
7, Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan, to the Vikings.
Another
the Vikings at 7.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, right? I mean, at that point, you're thinking McCarthy's probably going to be the starter,
At 8.
It's funny, though. The rookie Nix, Daniels, McCarthy were the ones that all outkicked their coverage, and they were all rookie starters, presumably at this time.
McCarthy
didn't end up doing it, right?
At 8, he has the Raiders. I think the Raiders are 6, maybe.
I think they are.
He has them taking the third quarterback off the board, Quinn Ewers.
Ah, interesting. Yep. I think he goes third round at best.
At best.
Wow.
At 9, he has the Arizona Cardinals taking Nick Scourton, edge rusher out of Texas A&M. He may not be in the first round this year.
I don't think he will, but he hadn't yet played at A&M. He was a pretty dominant player at Purdue. Took the big money to go to A&M. It's not terrible. I mean, it's probably 30 picks away from where he goes, though.
At 10, he has the Saints taking Will Campbell, offensive tackle out of LSU.
Okay, that's pretty dead on.
At 11, he has the Seahawks taking Travis Hunter.
He'd have been a tough one to slot then, but he had a phenomenal year.
At 12, he has the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking Benjamin Morrison, cornerback out of Notre Dame.
That's fair. He didn't know he was going to get hurt. You're right.
At 13, he has the Pittsburgh Steelers taking Tedero McMillan, wide receiver from Arizona. Just a reminder, folks, going into last season,
Right.
the national predictions for the Steelers were that they were going to have their first losing season under Mike Tomlin. They were going to be picking 13th. It didn't matter what preseason mock draft you looked at. They were drafting in the top 15 somewhere.
Yeah, and again, we have not mentioned the Bengals or Browns.
No.
Like they were forecast to be number 4 in the division.
Right.
So at Ted McMillan, though, Hunter aside, first true receiver, then still first receiver. Because I know Luther Burton was also highly regarded. He's probably on this list at some point.
At 14, the Indianapolis Colts take Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia.
That might actually happen.
Yeah. At 16, the Jacksonville Jaguars, or 15, I should say, take Denzel Burke, cornerback out of Ohio State.
He was one of those 5 stars that
Gonna be like a
started
third-round draft
early
pick.
and has really fizzled out. Yeah.
At 16, the Cleveland Browns,
They're not picking
who have the
16.
number 2 overall pick, take Emory Jones Jr., offensive tackle out of LSU. That's a guy we've been drafting in the 5th round
I know.
in our mocks.
I would go as high as the 4th because of this
tools
pedigree.
are there.
That's one of the things I like about him is, he at one point was highly, highly regarded, or at least excited about.
Yeah. At 17, the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
People were predicting the Chicago Bears were going to be a playoff team.
All right. After taking Caleb Williams, best environment and first overall picks ever fallen into. Right.
Ever.
Yeah. Right.
JT Tuimoloau, edge rusher of Ohio State.
You got to think at this point, all those dudes from Ohio State went back. They were pretty well known. Sawyer, all those dudes, the running back. That's not crazy, but he's not going to go that high.
It gives you some, like Penn State had a bunch of guys go back this year.
Yeah.
It makes you get like.
I wonder if Drew Aller is going to be first overall next year.
I wonder if they
right.
take a little step back. Like maybe they should have come out this year.
That's a good point.
At 18, the Los Angeles Chargers take Colston Loveland, tight
That might
end out of
happen.
Michigan. Good.
Not at 18, but it might happen.
At 19, the Rams take Luther Burden III, wide receiver out of Missouri.
Okay. That's the neighborhood he'll go in, I think, in round 1.
Here was a huge swing and miss. At 20, the New York Jets take Deone Walker, defensive tackle out of Kentucky.
Miss on all accounts. And Jets certainly did not
the
live
Jets
up to their
aren't picking
billing.
anywhere near 20.
Those poor Jets. Rodgers got hurt his first snap or whatever the year before, but now they're on Hard Knocks. Everyone's excited about him, and no.
Yeah.
And Walker is big and exciting.
He's big.
But, he's not going anywhere close to first round.
At 21, the Miami Dolphins
That division just fell apart.
take Jonah Savania, offensive lineman out of Arizona.
Not crazy.
Probably an early day 2 pick.
Yeah,
somewhere.
right. Probably at this point it's the tackle or guard,
At 22, the Atlanta Falcons take Abdul Carter, edge rusher out of Penn State.
Wow.
He might be the number 1 overall pick
He
this
might,
year.
right. I mean, he had a monster year. To be fair to Field, though, in a Micah Parsons-like way, at this point, he wasn't just an edge rusher. They were playing him off the ball, and they had some other dudes. I mean, and he excelled in a big way as a true edge guy.
At 23, the Houston Texans take Harold Perkins Jr., linebacker out of LSU.
Yeah, I remember all the buzz about this guy. And what's crazy about him, kind of like Parsons, he is off the ball. He is an edge, but he's like 220 pounds.
Yeah.
I don't really even know what happened to him. Is he going back to school?
I think he went back to school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I have not studied him during this draft cycle at all.
Yeah. Same thing here. At 24, the Green Bay Packers take Patrick Payton, edge rusher out of Florida State.
Okay. I don't even know who he is. I probably saw his name when this article came out, and that's the last time I thought about him.
At 25, The Cincinnati Bengals.
They didn't end up with the 25th pick.
They did not take Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State.
That's legit. I mean,
yeah.
He's been in the forefront for a while now.
There's like 8 Ohio State guys in the first round here.
It's crazy.
We're shocked that they won the national championship.
Yeah. I think they have 15 at the combine coming up.
Yeah. At 26, the Buffalo Bills take Donovan Jackson, guard out of Ohio State.
They end up having to kick out the left tackle, and I'm sure Simmons is not on this list, who got hurt.
Right.
Because he would just transferred in.
At 27, the Dallas Cowboys take Takario Davis, cornerback out of Arizona.
He must have went back or got hurt or something, yeah. Dallas didn't live up to that.
No. At 28, the Philadelphia Eagles take Isaiah Bond, wide receiver from Texas. He won't even be the first Texas wide receiver taken.
Absolutely not. I mean, speed guy, and he's okay, but I think he's around 3-ish at most, at best.
At 29, the Baltimore Ravens take Tyler Booker, guard out of Alabama.
Pretty much held up.
At 30, the Detroit Lions take Landon Jackson, edge rusher from Arkansas. He'll be a day 2 guy.
He'll be a day 2 guy. It's far off, but not obscene,
At 31, the Kansas City Chiefs. You got that right.
Yeah, he did, huh?
Take Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle from Michigan.
That's about where he'll go. I mean, maybe a little earlier. Those Michigan guys were well known coming off the national title.
Yeah. And at 32, the San Francisco 49ers, who did not finish anywhere close to winning the Super Bowl.
No, good point.
Take Tommy Hill, cornerback Nebraska. He's like a 5th-round pick.
I wasn't sure even who he was.
He's, did not live up to this.
Yeah, he must have had a miserable year. Interesting. I mean, obviously, every year you can look at it and be like, no one's going to predict the draft order. I mean, there's going to be success stories. There's going to be failures. But I will give him credit. He only had, 2 quarterbacks in the first round?
No, he had 3.
Beck, Sanders, and somebody else. Ewers, okay. So it's still
2 of whom will not be in the first round.
Right.
One of whom's not even in the draft.
No, he's in the draft, right.
So he had 3 quarterbacks going in the first round, only one of whom is probably going to go in the first round. Mm-hmm. One of them's not in this draft. The other one's not going anywhere close to the first round.
And one of them was first overall, too.
Yeah.
Which obviously isn't going to hold it back.
So when people say, just wait till next year to do this, to draft this position or that position, you don't know what's going to happen over the course of the season.
I think less now than ever.
Yeah.
Because there's more incentive to go back.
These guys have options to go back. Even if it goes badly like it did for Beck at Georgia, he's going to transfer somewhere else. Somebody's going to give him a chance to play somewhere else, and he's going to still get a boatload of money to do it.
Right. Like, look at Smith from Ohio State, the receiver, who's super impressive. Back in the day, you knew he was coming out the first second he could.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew Larry was leaving Pitt the second he could. Of course. Why would you not? Nobody's paying him. Like now, maybe he'll come out, but someone might give him an obscene deal and they might go try to win the national title again. Maybe he doesn't come out the year that he could the first time around.
Yeah, there's no cap on what they can make through NIL.
Right.
None. So you could see guys go back, wow, I'm going to make $6 million in college this year.
Yeah.
That's more than I'll make as a rookie.
Oh, yeah. And it's
fun. All you do is you take out an insurance policy on your, hey, if I blow a knee out, I still get my money. And
I think we brought this up even Friday. I mean, Ewers was a millionaire 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, coming out of high school, so what's the incentive? I mean, I'm kind of shocked he didn't go back and transfer, Now, it definitely is uncertain and it's far from, but it is also the area scout's job to have a pulse on what's coming up. If you've been going into LSU for 15 years, it's more difficult than ever because someone's going to transfer out.
Yeah, you don't know, or somebody's going to transfer in
and right ahead of you. Right,
he's not somebody who was in your area. Mm-hmm. Like this kid's transferring from BYU to Georgia. Well, I didn't watch a BYU tape. I have no idea. Nick Scourton going from Purdue to Texas A&M. Well, we didn't scout Texas. We didn't scout Purdue.
Never walked in Purdue. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch any transfer portal guys till I get to Texas that day or whatever. And especially quarterbacks. But, those area scouts should have a pulse of, in my area, it looks like good for quarterbacks. But again, you don't know. I mean, Bo Nix goes from Auburn to Oregon. I mean, they don't even stay like local to where they grew up.
Well, just look at our guy Tyler Shuck.
Yeah, he's all over the place.
Oregon to Texas Tech to Louisville.
Yeah,
like
over a 7-year stretch or whatever it is too. I mean, Cam Ward goes across the country too to Miami. I mean, so happens all the time. What else was I going to say about that? I mean, and I think going back to school as a quarterback is helpful. I mean, Shuck's getting close to being a little on the old side because he is playing against some 18 and 19-year-olds, and you should abuse those guys. I'm not saying it's Brandon Whedon-esque, but I look at it mostly as a positive. I mean, Nix, Penix, these guys come in the league, and
there's a pretty good track record now of guys who played longer in college and saw more starts as opposed to the guys who didn't.
Oh, like the Richardsons and those type of dudes, right? And maybe Bill Parcells knew a thing or two. Like his checklist was, you need to start this many games. And that's before guys came out early, and times were different a little bit, but still, there's something to it.
Yeah. So, all the guys who are projected as first-round picks for next year, and you'll see the list as soon there's lists out now, but you'll see mock drafts that come out as soon as this year's draft is over. Well, here's the mock draft for next year.
It's super far from.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice starting point, but it doesn't
I just look at the
anything.
names just because I want to learn the names for the first time. But like. And maybe I'm wrong, but my hunch is like Arch Manning will be the first pick overall next year to the Saints with his dad, blah, 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 blah. He's never even been a starter at Texas, really. I mean,
he couldn't knock off Quinn Ewers.
Right. I mean, he's got in games and Ewers got hurt, but I mean, and we all know he's a super recruit, blah, 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 but he's not the first one. So was Shuck.
Right. I mean, somebody on this list, and actually the guy who's on this list that is or isn't on the list was the number one overall recruit in the country, is the Mississippi defensive tackle.
Oh, Nolan. Okay.
Walter Nolan was the number one recruit in the country. He didn't crack this list.
Right. Wow. I mean, and they knew he was up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
funny.
you just don't know until they play the games because stuff happens. Guys transfer. I mean, I bring up the Spencer Rattler thing all the time. Like, Spencer Rattler was a can't-miss prospect when he was at Oklahoma till he missed.
Yeah. That happens a lot.
So, anyways, let's get to a break.
Exercise.
He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, news out of Cincinnati today that the Cincinnati Bengals will franchise T. Higgins for a second time. It's going to cost him about $27 million and change for the non-exclusive tag. Now, the non-exclusive tag does mean that he is capable of going out and talking to other teams.
And I'm sure he will. I mean, an agent will, of course. I mean, why would you not? And then they can match it?
They can match, or if they choose not to match, they get 2 first-round picks.
They get 2 first. Like, I can't imagine it.
There have been, I think, some negotiations in the past where instead of giving up the 2 firsts, hey, look, we're going to sign him. You're going to lose him. Mm-hmm. And, oh, by the way, like let's say it's the Bills, for example. We're picking 29th this year, and we'll be picking 29th next year. And maybe 32nd if we sign T. Higgins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that might be enough to.
You may not, how about we give you a first and a second?
You can negotiate the compensation. Yeah, right. Because I was sitting here thinking, like, New England has so much salary cap space.
Yeah.
But you're not giving up a top 5 pick and you're picked next year for T. Higgins. He's a really good player, but he's not Randy Moss. I mean,
but you could say, for example, if you're that team, let's say the Bengals want the picks this year. Mm-hmm. Well, we'll give you a first and a third this year, or a first and a second this year for T. Higgins.
Yeah.
As opposed to 2 firsts.
But it's definitely going to keep some people from negotiating with him. I mean, again, he's good. He's really good, but he's not Jamar Chase.
No.
I mean, he's not the best player in the position.
I think it's a mistake for them, really.
I think it's very Burrow driven.
Yeah.
I'm going to renegotiate. Well, that's not really a concession by you.
No, not at all.
I semi-understand the logic of let's just be great on offense and piece together a defense while we got Burrow. I don't know what their answer is.
Well, I don't know what they're going to do now with Trey Hendrickson.
I think he gets traded.
Because you're going to have, $50 million tied up in 2 receivers. You have to move him.
I think he gets traded, yeah.
And he was the only good thing about your defense last year.
Exactly. You have to rebuild an entire defense. Burrow aside, and Chase, because we know he's going to get a contract, et cetera, I don't like how they're built at all. They've put themselves in this situation, and I didn't see a good out either way. Letting Higgins walk and maybe getting a third comp pick, and you probably wouldn't because you're going to spend money on your defense. I mean, your comp game might not even end up in your favor. I mean, he's really the only dude you're losing. You're cutting a bunch of defenders, and you got to sign a bunch of guys.
What would be interesting?
I don't know how would I handle that.
Let's say, for example, the Ravens signed T. Higgins. Well, again, you're talking about a late first-round draft pick this year.
Yeah.
And probably a late first-round pick next year.
And I would not be interested for the Steelers.
No.
Not with the picks.
But let's say the Ravens did want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And they, if you're the Bengals, you're like, yeah, we're getting 2 first-round draft picks back, but we got to play against this dude twice a year.
Play against him twice, right? I don't know. There aren't many players in the league that are worth 2-1.
No,
and he isn't one of them to me. Even if they're both late ones, Bills, Ravens, Chiefs, that type of deal. So I don't know that will change much for the when it all comes down to it. It does give them time though. They could still trade him elsewhere.
Yeah, they could work out a deal.
Yeah, if they thought, like I keep coming back to Sam Darnold.
He would have to sign the tender, though.
Right, that's the point. He does have some pull in this.
Yeah.
That's like the Lev Bell situation. He just never signed the franchise tag, so he wasn't a football player.
Right.
You still got to.
This could be another situation where T. Higgins just sits out the entire preseason next year, and maybe
still wants a long-term deal.
Yeah.
But this is at least guaranteed for him. I mean, that's a nice chunk he's going to get no matter what. But he may have thought he was going to get 30 on the open field.
But he gets nothing now.
He gets nothing now.
If he'd have been on the open market, he's going to get about a
$50 million
$50 to $80 million check that somebody was going to write him.
And now you're getting 0.
Yeah.
So even if he blows out his knee, he gets paid weekly, but still. Yeah. And he does have an injury history. Like Darnold to me is another guy that could get franchised. I don't know if he will. But in that situation, I would think instead of letting him walk and hopefully getting a comp pick a year from now for the Vikings, they look at it like, we know the Raiders love him, hypothetical. We tag him. We'll trade him for a third of the Raiders. They'll probably say yes, give him the same deal, and we can at least get something back.
Now.
Right.
Because we don't have any picks in those rounds to begin with.
They don't have any day 2 picks, right. Where this one I think is different. I think they want to keep him and run it back.
Looking at the franchise tag numbers for this year, it's 41.3 for a quarterback, 27 for linebackers, 25
a lot for Darnold,
25.69 for a wide receiver. Higgins is more expensive because it's his second tag.
Yeah, he gets another 10% on top. Is that how that works?
Yeah. Offensive line is 25.1,
and it's so goofy.
Whether you're a center or a guard, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Defensive end is 24.7,
which is different than linebacker.
Which is why Bud Dupree was. At that point, linebacker was cheaper than the defensive lineman.
Yeah.
Defensive tackle is 23.4. Cornerback is 20.3. Safety is 19.6. Tight end is 14.2. Running back 13.6. And kicker, which just says special teamer. So it could be kicker or punter, 6.459.
If you're the best kicker in the league, that's not terrible, right?
That's skirting the rules of the franchise tag.
It is. It 100%
That's not what the franchise tag was made for. The franchise tag is, we can't afford to lose this guy in the open market, and that should never be a kicker.
It should never be a kicker. And the way I remember the franchise tag coming around was, I don't exactly know what the Larry Bird rule was in NBA, but it was basically, we don't want Bird and Magic and Jordan to go to 5 different teams. We want them to retire as Celtics or whatever. And meanwhile, LeBron has anyways. I mean, you only have so much control. But I think that was a big thing that with how the franchise was originated. The franchise tag was, little Johnny in Cincinnati that grew up loving T. Higgins gets to see him for more of his career.
Yeah.
But, as opposed to skirting the role for a kicker.
So looking here, and this is on CBS Sports, they're projecting some possibilities for franchise tag guys who could get tagged. And I don't think
it's going to be a lean year.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be many. For the Ravens, Ronnie Stanley. I can't see.
Boy, that's a lot.
I can't see them tagging Ronnie Stanley at $25.1 million.
Right.
Because they also have to do something. They have to pick up Linderbaum's 50-year option.
Year, right.
They have to pick up Hamilton's 50-year option.
Right.
They're like,
that's a lot of guaranteed money for 3 guys that are quite good and important, but Stanley's not a $25 million player.
No.
Is that what the number was for a line?
Yeah, $25.1 million.
Yeah.
No.
I think he leaves.
Yeah.
I don't think the other two will soon, at least. But
for the Cowboys, they're saying Osa Odigizua. I don't see it.
no way.
You're not paying $23.4 million for this season.
He'll make good money.
Yeah.
But he's not that kind of money.
The Texans are not going to franchise tag Stephon Diggs at $27 million.
Way.
25.6.
Coming off an injury, and he wasn't phenomenal at the end of his Bills career.
For the Chiefs, they're saying Trey Smith. They're not going to franchise tag Trey Smith.
They're probably pissed off about how the rule is, because
$25 million for Trey
guard,
Smith.
Yeah, maybe. If it was even interior, you consider it, but not all O-line mixed together.
For the Rams, Alaric Jackson. You're not paying Alaric Jackson $25 million.
No. I mean, I know they have to write an article and put some names on there, but there's not really many legit names this year.
For the Dolphins, Javon Holland. Now, Javon Holland ideally would be a franchise tag candidate.
Yeah,
because
not
if
terrible.
He's a good enough player.
They don't make money.
They don't have any money. He's $19.6 million. They're already $5.4 million over the cap. They can't do it.
Right. And that just goes immediately, guaranteed money.
They would then be $25 million over the cap.
Yeah, no, he's going to hit the market.
Darnold,
but in the right situation, I could see him getting safety franchise tag money. Yeah. It's not from that team today.
Darnold for the Vikings.
I think that's a maybe. But you kind of screw the player a little bit too.
You want to get something, but
you'd love to get something back.
They gave Sam Darnold $10 million last year for not doing anything close to what he did put on the field last year.
Right.
So, I mean, they've done Sam Darnold a pretty good favor.
Yeah.
And they got more than their money's worth out of him.
Oh, 100%. The thing is, we've talked about them a lot. No day 2 picks. They have a ton of cap space this second, but Aaron Jones.
They got a bunch of free agents.
So many free agents, like their entire secondary, all their corners. Positions like interior line that they'd like to fix, they can't, because you only have one prominent pick and you need to go outside the organization or keep your own. So if they tag him, I bet he's on the books for like 24 hours, tag and trade.
Yeah.
Unless they consider trading McCarthy, which I don't think they would.
For the Jets, it's DJ Reed.
It's a stretch.
I don't see that happening. For the Eagles, Zach Bond.
That one's a possibility. I mean, he was a all-pro linebacker, not a Pro Bowl linebacker. I forget what the number you said was.
$27 million for a linebacker.
Ooh. That's more like T.J. Watt being called a linebacker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's another one of those discrepancies. If you're a true off-the-ball guy, that's more than Fred Warner's making. That's more than anybody's making. No, you can't do that.
I mean, they have $18 million in cap space, so that would mean they would just be saying goodbye to everybody else.
Everybody else, right?
Because they'd have to do some serious jockeying just to get under the cap.
I mean, the only way I could see them doing it is if they were close to a deal when the deadline hits for franchise tag, and they just want to buy another week of talks.
Which there is some of that, and you can
that
always
does
rescind.
Happen, right? Yeah,
you can rescind that.
Yeah, I say that is a tactic that makes some sense.
Yeah. They mentioned Russell Wilson and Justin Fields at 41.3. You're not tagging those guys.
No way.
I've even seen people being, maybe they'll use a transition tag on him. Nobody's used a transition tag in years. It might as well not even still exist.
Yeah, I'm kind of rusty on my definition of it too.
That just gives you the ability to match.
Yeah, but I think is that what they did with Lamar? I think they did so Lamar
I thought they did the non-exclusive franchise.
Yeah. I mean, it basically was just saying, if somebody's going to give you the deal you think you get, we'll just match it. I mean, and nobody even bothered because they knew that he wasn't leaving Baltimore.
Yeah, but the transition tag, you don't get any picks in return.
No,
you just get the ability to match, and that's where you had the poison pill come out
like
of
the Hutchinson stuff.
Yeah, if he plays half of his games in Seattle, well,
then
or Minnesota, whichever way it went.
Right.
That kind of screwed that one. And it just doesn't get used anymore.
No, it doesn't get used anymore.
It's a jumping off point for some of the 50-year option stuff because you get
you at least could say,
the different levels.
Do it too.
Right. But yeah, I just don't expect a lot of them this year.
I think just maybe one.
Plus the numbers. The numbers are just extreme.
They are. But the cap's going up quick and the league's really healthy.
It's not going up quick enough to.
For some of these numbers.
You've got 4 franchise tag numbers that are north of $25 million. $25 million plus is quarterback money.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it just is.
It is. I was going to stop you when you started doing the positions, what they all cost franchise-wise. The only one that's a deal is tight end to me. Like if you were Gronk coming off your first, Kelsey coming off your first, and you can pay them like $12 million or whatever it was, if you're a stud, then it's a steal.
I mean, look at the running back number. The first time the Steelers tagged Le'Veon Bell, it was like 12.6, if I remember correctly.
So it hasn't changed that much.
It hasn't changed that much. It's 13.6 now.
Okay.
Like some of these other ones.
If say Barkley signed a 1-year deal in Philly, they would tag him in a heartbeat.
Tag him, yeah.
Right. The other thing that's goofy about the tag, it's rare, but I've cited this a lot on here. Like when Aaron Donald was at the height of his powers, he was the best defensive player on the planet, and it was hands down. He was definitely the best defensive tackle.
They had to tag him.
But if they did, it's cheaper. That's almost
cheaper.
That's less than he deserves. Because I'm not the sum of the top 5. I'm number 1, and everybody's fighting to be number 2. Like you're shortchanging him if you franchise Aaron Donald in his prime.
Yeah, but
that's rare.
So you got all but 4 positions making more than $20 million.
So when is Micah Parsons up? Like I
think he has another year left on his deal. They can just
they picked up the option.
This is the first. They haven't had to pick up the option yet.
They haven't had to make that decision yet. Okay, so they don't have to. I'm sure he wants a deal now.
He wants a deal, yeah.
But I mean, I'm thinking of guys that could be in the Donald situation where I'm worth more than Garrett Watt because I'm younger. If I just franchise them, I can get them cheaper for a year, which is why the 10% thing goes on. You can't just do that over and over to these guys.
Right. Yeah, which is the Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm. He's one of the few that actually had happened. But Higgins is going to get 10%. Assuming
at that point, they almost have to then try to sign him to a long-term deal as well.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you're going to go get defensive players this year. I mean, 27 against the cap this year for him is painful.
Yeah.
And then you watch him leave after. I mean, maybe that one is just trying to negotiate too.
Could be.
Both.
Both.
Because what's Chase going to do? He's going to want more than that.
Oh, absolutely. He's going to want 35 plus.
Yeah.
He wants more than what Jefferson got.
So, real quick, Higgins, I think you said, is 27 with the tag.
Yeah.
Do we think he would have gotten north of 30 as a true UFA?
He'd have gotten right around 30.
Yeah. Probably more than what he would have gotten. And as you said, he'd have gotten a big check up front.
Yeah.
A huge check up front. He's not happy about this.
No.
At all.
He has I mean, I can understand why he wouldn't be happy.
No,
again,
right.
If somebody, it's $27 million that you're going to get over the course of the season.
Which is lovely, no matter what.
You're going to get a $1.5 million check every week.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
And you get to be a free agent again after the year.
Or you don't, because who knows?
Yeah.
We just went through a mock draft before the college season started, and 10 guys that were on that list aren't in the top 10 because they either got hurt or they had a bad year.
I mean, 1 year ago, whenever they franchised Higgins the first time, we didn't think he was going to be a do-it-again candidate.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not going to be happy.
No. Again, somebody was going to give me a $50 million or more check to join their team.
For a 2 or 3 year deal.
That I could then put in the bank, and it's earning interest from now until the start of the season. I'd make more interest than
Oh, yeah. You could buy, car dealerships. You could buy anything you want with it. Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, that's, I guess, not surprising news from the Bengals' perspective. I mean, but they're in a bind.
They are in a bind.
Yeah. I mean, even if he comes back and plays and is thrilled, the defense can't be much invested in it.
No, they're going to have to completely rebuild the defense basically through the draft and with bargain basement guys.
Mm-hmm. And tight end's a little light. O-line's very light. I mean, they got like 3 dudes.
Yeah.
And I don't think Hendrickson will be back. I maybe that's after Garrett gets traded, if he gets traded, that Garrett gets X, maybe they get 80% of X, something like that,
I can't see them getting multiple or, a first-round pick and more for Trey Hendrickson. He's over 30.
He's over 30.
Yeah.
I think he'd get like a 2 and a 5 for him.
Yeah.
From a good team.
Which is fine.
The Lions or whatever, right.
It doesn't
change the whole franchise.
And again, what we've said all along is not a star-ridden draft. It's a good draft. It's not a great draft.
Right. You're going to get a transcendent draft class? Probably not. I mean, probably no one will.
Yeah. And they haven't exactly drafted well.
No,
those
especially on
defensive
defense.
Picks. Yeah.
Really poorly.
Anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, just going through some potential cuts here.
Yeah, there's a lot of them coming up. Yeah,
NFL.com, and those will start happening here soon. And again, these are potential cuts. Now, some of these guys are definitely going to get released.
So this is off NFL.com?
Yeah.
I sent you one from The Athletic where every beat writer had to pick a guy, Right.
I don't necessarily like that because a lot of them are just, we're just going to, you have to pick somebody,
right.
And maybe nobody gets cut.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you also don't pick multiple.
Right.
Yeah, right.
But just because somebody's like, when the Steelers made the trade for Dante Jackson last year, I heard a lot of, well,
he could have been on these
Carolina
lists,
was going to cut him. Not necessarily. He was on one of those lists, like that The Athletic did, where you had to name somebody who might get cut. And he was listed on there. Didn't mean they were going to cut him.
It wasn't a done deal, right.
All right, so for the I'll do the AFC first here. Devontae Adams,
he's getting cut.
And/or Alan Lazard.
I think
they're both getting cut.
They're both gone.
Yeah, they're both getting cut.
Yep. I have no interest in Lazard. I have great interest in Adams.
I don't know that he would have interest in coming to Pittsburgh, though. I think he wants to go to the West.
I think he said West Coast.
He wants to go to the West Coast or wherever Aaron Rodgers goes.
Wherever Aaron.
And no, I'm not signing Aaron Rodgers so I can get Devontae Adams.
Or if Carr gets traded, maybe they go back with him too.
Yeah. Travis Kelce, he's not going to get cut.
It could be he retires or is gently pushed out the door.
So there was a story. The 49ers or the Chiefs have given Travis Kelce they want to know by March 14th what he's doing. Well, no kidding.
Yeah.
That's when the new league year starts at March 12th. You want to know what Travis Kelce's plan is here.
Aaron Rodgers is like the only one that was able to, for whatever reason, the team let him linger and linger and linger.
Yeah.
Like, it just totally handcuffs your whole offseason, especially a quarterback. I need to know.
Got to know.
Yeah.
Plus, it's $17.3 million in cap savings if he's not on their roster next year.
It'd probably be a good thing for them if he retires because it's going to be a retirement. He's not going to end up on.
They're not going to release him.
He's not going to be a bear.
Yeah.
Right.
Mark Andrews.
I think he's a potential trade. Not just because he dropped the ball, but he is a pretty big cap hit, and if it means
they don't have a lot of money,
if it
would save them $11 million. They have likely in place,
right? They could draft a good tight end probably in the third round.
They probably draft 4 of them.
They'll probably take a couple, and maybe they're going to be a little bigger or a little lighter on personnel. I mean, he's not young. The drop doesn't help, but maybe he's not back.
Joey Bosa, he's getting cut.
Gone. And Mac's a free agent, too.
His cap hit's like $37 million.
It's over.
They would save $25 million just by releasing him.
It's an easy one, yeah.
That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Sam Hubbard and/or Sheldon Rankins with the Bengals. I think they're both gone.
I think they're both gone, and there may be 3 or 4 others on defense. I mean, I think a large portion of their defense is gone.
They just got to flush it.
Yeah, Hubbard's an easy one. Their recent draft picks are safe, but that's about it.
Because they're cheap.
Yeah. Hilton and Hill were both free agents. Pratt once traded, but he could get cut too. He's nothing special,
Yeah.
No, they're going to have wholesale changes.
Von Miller.
It's probably about
for
that
what?
time,
It's $23.8 million cap hit for a guy that plays 10 snaps a game.
Designated
Can't
pass
do
rusher type. No.
Can't do it.
No.
Christian Kirk is a guy that we've talked about as a trade possibility.
Yep.
Just because he's on this list doesn't mean they're going to cut him.
Right. But I think you could wait out. We talked about Adams, Kupp, Debo, Kirk. I think all of them should be on this list. I know we'll get the NFC in a bit. But they like Parker Washington. They don't have much cap flexibility. Kirk would save them like 17. Does that sound right?
He would save them 13.6. Or I'm sorry, he would save them basically $11 million.
Okay, because I know Engram's
the
other one.
He would save them 10.4 million.
Cap savings.
Yeah.
Because I think Engram's slightly behind that too. They drafted Strange. They like Washington. Thomas has come on, and they got to spend their money elsewhere. So I think Engram's back, and Kirk is either cut or traded for a pretty late pick.
Yeah, I would rather do that if I'm going to if I want the player, I would rather trade for him
and just assure that
here's a 5th-round pick.
Right,
you're going to cut him. We'll take or a
7. You
7.
inherit his contract, as you know.
You inherit the contract, but you inherit the contract. He's got 1 year left on his deal. You can then decide.
Let me throw another year on
after the season, even. Well, you just tell him, hey, Christian, we'll talk after the season's over. You have this deal in place. You can even do it
in training camp after you've been with him for a while.
Right.
Too,
you get that opportunity. And then if he leaves at the end of the year.
Then you get a pick more than he gave up.
You get a comp pick back.
Yeah.
Potentially.
I know people are, we had just talked about Higgins. People have talked about Kupp, Debo. I think Kirk's like my favorite and most likely veteran to join the Steelers. He plays inside. He's out. He's tough. He's younger than most of the names we brought up. Most of those dudes are 30-plus, including Amari Cooper and Diggs and the free agents to be. And if I still want to use a 3rd-round pick on a receiver, sure, go ahead. Right.
It doesn't stop me from doing that.
Right.
And
he's a lot better than what you played with.
Some of the comments on the message board about why do you guys keep talking about Christian Kirk? Because he makes you he makes your roster better.
Yeah.
You're not going to go get Devontae Adams. It's probably not going to happen.
I mean, it sounds like
you're not going to get T. Higgins.
T. Higgins is probably off the market now. It sounds like Godwin might hit the market. Is your best guy you could probably get.
And then he probably gets $28 million a year.
There's warts with Kupp and Debo. I mean, I could see going down those roads too. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but there's warts with them. Kirk's coming off an injury, but it's a broken collarbone or something that doesn't change who he is as an athlete. And it's a strong number 2 option.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Again, they wanted Christian Kirk at the trade deadline last year. I'm not saying they would have killed for him, but they would have definitely he would have made him a better team.
Right. And probably would not have been a cap casualty here. You just would have picked this up and kept rolling.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Alex Kappa with the Bengals.
Yeah, they got problems. I mean, their interior O-line needs a lot of work.
Yeah.
They're gonna cut 5 or 6 guys.
Samson Ekubon and Raekwon Davis with the Colts.
I don't know enough about their situations.
Edge rusher and a defensive tackle. They have cap space, but they got to start signing some guys. All these guys that I
don't know what they'd save on those two, but they're not valuable players.
Yeah. Ekubon, $10.5 million cap hit.
Yeah.
They would save $7.5 million there. Yeah, he's getting cut.
Yeah, then he's getting cut. Right.
Braden Smith with the Colts.
Yeah, that one I saw. I know he missed time with injury and didn't finish the season, I don't think.
It's a $19.8 million cap hit.
And if he's banged up,
they went with Goncalves at the
end
of the season.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
They drafted the BYU kid a year or two ago, too.
Would you have an interest in bringing Braden Smith in?
Not really.
No, I wouldn't either.
No, I mean, he's a right tackle and he's had a good career.
Yeah.
Somebody will. I mean,
he'll get money on the open market.
If this was Patriots Audio Network,
absolutely, for the Titans, Amani Hooker and Kenneth Murray, or Kenneth Murray.
Yeah, I think they're both very dispensable.
Yeah, Kenneth Murray is a $10.1 million cap hit.
yeah, gone. There's gonna be a lot of people released. I mean, that's
Danico Autry with the Texans.
Yeah, he's gonna be gone.
John Franklin Myers with the Broncos.
Good player.
I've always thought he was a good player, yeah.
Yeah, he's a good player. Jones is up, though. Allen's basically a star.
Yeah. He played 46% of the snaps. He has a $10 million cap hit.
I say, did he have an injury this year? I didn't think he played a ton. I'm not sure on that. Good player.
Yeah. Still had 7 sacks.
He's a good interior pass rusher with some size.
Dalvin Tomlinson with the Browns.
They're going to have to lose dudes. I mean, I bet they have offensive linemen that fit that bill. They're going to have a problem.
Yeah. Moving over to the NFC real quick here. You're looking at.
And remember, folks, if the Steelers were signed any of these guys we're talking about, they're not against the comp pick game.
Right. Debo Samuel.
I think that happens.
Marshawn Lattimore. I can't imagine they cut him already.
No way.
Cam Jordan's getting cut.
Yeah. I mean, Demario Davis, the Honey Badger, a lot of those guys could.
Derek Carr, I don't believe Derek Carr is getting cut, though, because
it has to be post-June 1.
It would cost them money to do that.
They have to wait till post-June 1.
Tyler Lockett.
He's gone.
Yeah.
He's like a $12 million savings.
David Onyemata or Grady Jarrett with the Falcons.
I think Onyemata's for sure. Not sure on Garrett.
Jonah Jackson with the Rams.
They signed him
They
1
just
year
signed
ago.
him, yeah.
Right. I don't think that'd happen.
Tremaine Edmonds or T.J. Edwards with the Bears.
They just signed them, too,
Just signed them
recently.
both, yeah.
but
They have
expensive.
$63 million in cap space.
I bet they're safe.
Noah Fant with the Seahawks.
I don't know what would save him, but he's not special.
He's a $13.4 million cap.
He's probably gone, for a tight end.
Miles Sanders, he's getting cut.
Gone.
James Bradbury or Darius Slay. Bradbury's getting cut.
Bradbury's definitely getting cut.
Yeah.
I don't know what Slay would save him, but that's maybe if it's a big enough number, then yeah.
Yeah. Taysom Hill.
Gone.
Yeah. Gerald Everett with the Bears.
Yeah, probably.
Probably. Roy Robertson Harris with the Seahawks, defensive tackle.
Yeah, he's another interesting dude. I don't know where it would save him, but they've drafted there and Leonard
$6.6 million.
He's probably gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Darius Williams, cornerback with the Rams.
Probably gone.
Yeah, $3.8 million in savings. It's not that great.
Yeah.
Yatir Gross-Matos with the 49ers.
If they're going to make a splash on a Garrett or something crazy.
Yeah, Damone Clark with the Cowboys.
Okay. Overshown's hurt, though.
Yeah, and Young Hoku could be hitting the open.
Oh, wow. Did he have a bad year?
I
don't remember him being around like the
he
scoring
missed
leaders
9
or
out of
anything.
34 attempts, so yeah.
Yeah, he had a bad year. I thought so. Getting kicks indoors and all that.
And maybe he could be a Raven. They could trade out old
It's a
kickers.
possibility. There's some bad news coming out
More
of that
bad
world,
news
too.
there. Yeah. So,
I don't
anyways,
think he's going to be back either.
Yeah, I don't
whether
think
he's
so.
a cap casualty or whatever.
Hey, that's great. Then the Ravens have to use a draft pick on a.
They're going to do something, a kicker.
They got to do something. Somebody's
Yeah.
going to kick for them next year.
Yep.
Anyways, that's the list from NFL.com. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is the start of hour number 2 of The Drive here on Steelers Audio Network and Steelers Nation Radio, or Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.
Yep.
as it
Okay.
were.
Right.
And we are mock drafting, Matt.
Okay.
Using the ProFootballFocus.com mock drafter because we can make trades on here.
Good.
And we've made a trade.
Okay.
We traded our 6th-round draft pick for Christian Kirk.
So if you rewind a couple minutes and you listen to the last segment, hour 1, I think there's a real good chance he gets released. And if you, as you mentioned, firm it up that he ends up in Pittsburgh, and I don't think it would cost you much. I think that's a reasonable compensation. They get the cap space, you get the player, you get the contract. Boom.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. So there's chip number 1.
Okay.
We haven't traded anybody from our roster. And at this point, I don't know that we're going to.
Okay.
So
we're going to have a quarterback signed, I assume.
We'll have a quarterback signed, and looking here at the mock draft, Walter Nolan went with the pick right ahead of ours.
Okay.
So you miss on that. Top players available, Benjamin Morrison, the cornerback from Notre Dame, Armand Membo, tackle from Missouri, Jack Sawyer, the edge rusher out of Ohio State, Kenneth Grant, the interior defensive lineman from Michigan, Matthew Golden, wide receiver, Texas, Amarian Hampton, running back out of North Carolina, Gray Zabel, offensive lineman from North Dakota State, Nick Scourton, edge rusher out of Texas A&M, Tyleek Williams, defensive lineman out of Ohio State, Josh Connerly, tackle out of Oregon, Jahade Brown, cornerback out of Texas, the usual suspects.
Yeah, I'd say there's a couple attractive receivers, Grant and Williams on the nose, couple corners of interest there too. Grant would probably be my pick at 21, but I would definitely field offers at this
We have
point.
trade offers.
Okay.
The Rams are on the phone. They have picked 26.
That's
Problem
close
is
enough.
they don't have anything in between.
Oh, yeah. I remember
They go
this.
26, 90, 100, 126. Now, if they want to give me 90 and
I'd say would
100,
90 and 100 do it?
I would consider it for 90 and 100, but I doubt that that's going to – yeah, that's a 41% chance. We'd have to sweeten that on our end of it.
Would a 7th get us to 45%?
That only gets us – even if we offer 224 instead of 220 or 246, it only gets us to a 43% chance. I can offer it.
Yeah, I mean, see, maybe they say yes.
They did, actually.
All right, okay.
Okay, so there we go.
That didn't seem unreasonable to me. I mean, move up to the first round is expensive. And
Yeah.
You're giving up late
2
thirds and
third-round
early-
picks?
Right, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to resume the draft. All right, so top players available. Well, the guys that went after us. Kenneth Grant, they moved up for Kenneth Grant.
I don't know if they would do that, but okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Armand Membo then went. Jack Sawyer went. Benjamin Morrison went. Matthew Golden went. We're back up. Amarian Hampton, Gray Zabel, Nick Scourton, Tyleek Williams, Josh Connerly, Jahdae Barron, Colston Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan.
I have some interest in Williams in a nosy way, but there's others that we'll like on day 2, and we have a lot of day 2 picks. But
Chiefs are on the phone.
If you want to entertain that, I'm cool with it.
That would be a move down to 31. The Eagles are also on the phone with pick 32.
Okay.
Do we want to trade with one of those?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I mean, I was thinking of Barron or a couple guys there that were of interest, but nobody I had to have.
They would give us 30. The Chiefs would give us 31 and 95 for 26.
Anyway, we could send them one of our many 3s, and we get a 2 instead of their 3.
Try.
Yeah.
Try that comp pick that
if we swap first rounders, send them a late 3 and get their late 2.
All right, so if it's 26 and 100 for 31, 63 and 131, they would do that. Presumably, there's a 51% chance that they would take that. I could sweeten that even more. We get rid of all of our 7th rounders.
Yeah, might as well.
They didn't take it. Nope.
What was the original one that you thought they'd say yes?
The original one was 31, 63, and 131 for 26 and 100. I threw in the 7th rounder, and they said no. So if I offer just those picks, they're also going to say no.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. You were going to add more.
I'm going to see what the Eagles have on the offer. So the Eagles have 32.
I'd love to get one of these late seconds.
64. They won't do that, but if we offer 100, they will more than likely do it.
It's a pretty nice jump to go from 100 to 64 and only go back.
I'm going to see if I can move up with that 246 as well. Back into the
even if that's a future 5th, I'd take.
Back into the 6th round, we could probably do that. Okay. So we got 26, 100, or we gave up 26, 100, 246 for 32, 64, and 161.
Okay. Now we go to between 32 and, the last pick of day 1 and all kinds of day 2. We got a lot of stuff.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to resume the draft here because I didn't. All right. So at 32,
I would consider Hampton here.
Amarian Hampton is the best player available.
I think he's a tremendous fit for this offense.
Tyleek Williams, still there.
I would still consider him too.
Colston Loveland, Demetrius Knight, Trey Amos, the cornerback out of Mississippi, Alec Yemenor, wide receiver from Stanford, T.J. Sanders, defensive lineman from South Carolina, Jack Betch, wide receiver from TCU, Landon Jackson, edge rusher out of Arkansas, Princely Yu, edge rusher out of Mississippi. I mean, honestly,
that's a 2-horse race for me.
It's either Hampton or Tyleek Williams.
Me too, yeah. I really want to invest in D-line much more than I want to invest in running back. But he's a nose, and there's definitely going to be noses. I mean.
So here's the other thing. The Giants are on the phone.
Oh, boy.
They're at pick 34.
Yeah. One of those two will be there.
We're picking at 32. One of those two guys is going to be there.
Mm-hmm. Just let them make the decision for us. They're not trading up for a running back.
No.
They're not trading up for a nose either.
Yeah, the Browns could take a running back. I doubt it.
They shouldn't,
32,
but they could.
Yeah. All right, so they've got 34 and 65. So they got.
Well, yeah, they're a bad team.
They're not going to give us that. But
no.
If we give up, let's say 121, no.
I mean, even if we just get a 4th, I'd be up for it.
Okay, so what about 32 and 90, which is a comp pick at the end of the 3rd round for 34 and 65?
I would do that.
We're losing the 5th-year option, but
nobody uses them anyways.
Yeah, right.
Last pick
if I'm going to take a
right?
running back or a defensive tackle, I'm probably not going to use it.
Probably not going to use it anyways.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, I'm going to offer it. They took it. We're back. And the picks were Tyleek Williams and Colston Loveland, so Amarian Hampton.
I'm fine with it considering the massive amounts of trade downs we did. It's not like we're going to ignore D-line.
So here's what we now have after all that movement. We've got 34, 53, 64, 65, 85, 121, and 161.
How many picks total? Did
A
you say
bunch.
6 or 7?
1, 2, 3.
Because we got rid of the junkie picks.
5, 6. We got 7 picks.
Okay.
Which is
Let's
what we
take our
started
back
with.
now.
Okay. Amari and Hampton it is.
I just think he's a really, really good fit.
We are back now
Home
at
run speed.
yeah. We're back at 53. We're not taking a running back here.
No, I think we're done.
We're done at running
yeah.
back, yeah.
I want big people or receivers and corners.
Top guys available. I'm not even going to mention the running backs. Cal Kennard, edge rusher out of South Carolina. Savion Williams, wide receiver TCU. Jaden Higgins, wide receiver out of Iowa State.
Both those guys are interesting to me.
Donovan Jackson, offensive lineman out of Ohio State. Derek Harmon, defensive lineman out of Oregon.
That's going to be hard to say no to.
Jordan Birch, edge rusher out of Oregon. Cameron Williams, tackle out of Texas. Jared Ivey, edge rusher out of Mississippi. Ozzie Trapillo, offensive tackle from Boston College. Darius Alexander, interior.
How long do we wait after this pick?
We have 11 picks. I think you go wide receiver.
There's 2 receivers I liked. There was a couple O-linemen I was shocked were still there.
We got picks at 64 and 65
right.
coming up.
I like the chances of Harmon or Alexander falling. I'd be a little heartbroken if both went in these next 10 picks.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite receiver? Higgins?
Higgins.
Yeah, he's a lot different than Kirk.
Williams is intriguing, but the production was not.
Right. I
They're the
prefer
same.
Higgins,
I mean,
too.
basically the same size. Like they're both big guys.
They're big dudes, right. But
Give
I
you a
mean,
little
considering
something
we have Kirk on board, I think Higgins we're done at receiver too.
Yeah.
Do it. Yeah.
Jaden Higgins is the pick. All right, we're back up. The top player available, the top 2 players available, Derek Harmon and Derek Alexander.
We've done this before, and we've chosen Harmon. Either would have been fantastic. I'm glad either one's there.
Let's take Harmon here. That's easy enough. Okay, we're back up again. Top players available, Darius Alexander, the defensive lineman from Toledo. Chris Paul Jr., linebacker from Mississippi. Wyatt Millum, offensive lineman from West Virginia. Sebastian Castro, the safety out of Iowa. Travion Henderson and Quinshawn Junkins, the 2 Ohio State running backs. Kevin Winston Jr., safety out of Penn State. Dylan Gabriel. Jonah Savania, offensive lineman out of Arizona. Jalen Royals, wide receiver out of Utah. Gunnar Helm, tight end out of Texas. Maxwell Hairston, cornerback out of Kentucky. We didn't get to take a cornerback.
I think it's Hairston.
I think it's an easy pick.
Before that, I didn't really like anyone. I was going to suggest you want to do Alexander as well and just go crazy on D-line.
We could do that too.
But Hairston kind of stood out like, we should probably take the corner. But,
all right.
I mean, I know neither one of those are knows, but still.
We can get those.
That'd be serious D-line reinforcements, get Alexander and Harmon. But I think you go with Hairston.
All right, Hairston is the pick. We're back now at 85. And Nick Emuwari, safety out of South Carolina. I don't think he's going to be down there.
No, I don't either. I think next week at this time we'll laugh at that after this combine.
Mason Taylor, the tight end out of LSU.
I'm a big fan.
Tez Johnson, wide receiver from Oregon. Devin Neal, no. Trey Harris, no. Harold Fannin, no. Dion Walker, defensive lineman from Kentucky.
I would say, is Florida State D lineman there? I'm taking him over Dion Walker.
Yeah, he'll be there. Yeah.
I would take him now.
Kamen Rucker, edge rusher out of North Carolina. Tate Ratledge. I just want to see if there's any quarterbacks.
I would take Tyler Shuck here. I would take
Quandarius Robinson, Jalen Milroe, Andrew Makuba, safety out of Texas. Miller Dotson, R.J. Harvey, Will Howard.
Will Howard's the other one I would consider here. I would take Howard or Shuck. I don't know why his name's out of my mind right now, but the Florida State knows.
Jalen Rivers, the offensive tackle from Miami.
I don't think he's a tackle, though.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe 6'5"-ish.
J.J. Pegas is there, the defensive lineman from Mississippi. He's a nose.
Mm-hmm. It's not bad. There a Project O lineman as a bonus prize, tackle type.
Let me see here what's available on the offensive line.
Not an interior guy, but a tackle type.
Chase Lunt would be. He is an offensive tackle.
Yeah, Grant's gone, I assume.
Emory Jones is still there as well.
It's appealing. You want to go quarterback?
You want to go quarterback here? Yeah, Jalen Milroe, Will Howard, Riley Leonard, Jackson Dark, Quinn Ewers, Kyle McCord, Curtis Rourke, Tyler Shuck.
Shuck's my favorite, but I'd be fine with Ohio State. I know that's super early for their rankings or whatever, but I think that's where he's going to go.
Not for Ohio State. It would be for Shuck.
Yeah, for Shuck, I know it is. I prefer Shuck. What about Florida State nose? I keep bringing him up, and I can't remember his name.
Farmer,
yeah. So I think he goes in this neighborhood, too.
You're looking at Dion Walker, Jordan Phillips.
I'm a Phillips fan,
player.
too. Yeah, I like him more than Walker.
J.J. Pegas is there as well.
Okay, I like him more than Walker, too.
And then Josh Farmer's the next guy on the list.
I would go Howard, Shuck, Farmer, or Maryland nose. Or Pegas.
Let's take Howard just to be different here.
Okay, that's fine. They don't like always end up with the same people.
So we'll take Howard here.
And I bet there's a D tackle we like.
I'm sure there will.
Yeah, you just named 4 or 5 of them.
All right, we're definitely going nose tackle here. And Josh Farmer is the top guy available.
I would be thrilled with that.
There we go. And we got one more pick left at 161. Here we could go running back again here.
Could. Tight end wouldn't break my heart.
Tight end.
O-line was always.
Tight ends usually
they usually far pretty. What pick is this?
161.
Okay, I couldn't remember where we ended up with our last one. I knew we're not in the 7th round neighborhood.
So you're looking at Thomas Vadone. These are the tight ends from Nebraska. Caden Priestcorn, I should say, from Mississippi. Jalen Conyers from Texas Tech. Luke Leachy out of Iowa. Arondre Gadsden out of Syracuse. I don't love
Lachey's my favorite if he runs well next week because he looks – he fought an injury all year, and the tape isn't pretty with him.
It's not great. Yeah.
Rumbling.
But he is an Iowa tight end.
But supposedly he's supposedly healthier and should run well at the combine, but that's the projection.
The running backs available. Kyle McGonigal out of Rutgers. Marcus Yarns out of Delaware.
Yeah, he'd be the change of pace guy, right?
Might be your kick returner.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Bichelle Tootin out of Virginia Tech.
I'm a fan. He fumbles a little bit. But
fumbles more than a little bit.
Yeah, that's the big problem.
Jordan James out of Oregon.
I'm a big
fan
of him, too.
Taj Brooks out of Texas Tech. I like him, too.
James is one of the most underrated, I think.
Let's take him.
All right.
He'll be our kick returner at the very least. And
I mean, you might only have Warren for one more year.
Right, that's the thing.
Yeah. I mean, I know you can get them, but that's a good player that late.
Jordan James it is. Now, remember,
he's a 1-year starter behind Bucky Irving, by the way. I mean, that's one of the reasons he's not on top of some lists.
Yeah, Bucky Irving worked out pretty
Pretty
good player.
And he can room with Harmon.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, so we traded for Christian Kirk before the draft started.
Mm-hmm.
Gave up our 5th-round pick.
Oh, okay.
Pick 162. We then traded down 3 times.
Yeah.
But we ended up with Omarion Hampton. And again, in this draft, because of the, again, I think after like the first, we'll talk about this in the next segment.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe there's 8 to 10 guys that would be first-round picks in any draft.
Yeah,
where usually it's 15.
Number. Right.
But then I think that next 40 to 50, maybe even 60 guys are all kind of are going to be similarly graded.
And that's where we ended up with.
We ended up with 4 of those guys.
Right.
Like,
and you probably weren't going to get one of the, top 10 types.
Yeah, if one of those guys would happen to fall to you, then you take him.
Mm-hmm.
But in this instance, they didn't.
Like if Nolan would have been there, I think we probably wouldn't have. We wouldn't trade down 3 times. But
right.
We would have. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But we ended up with Marion Hampton, Jaden Higgins, wide receiver out of Iowa State, Derek Harmon, the defensive lineman from Oregon, Maxwell Hairston, the cornerback from Kentucky, Will Howard, the quarterback from Ohio State,
I like that.
Josh Farmer, the defensive lineman nose tackle out of Florida State, Jordan James, the running back out of Oregon, and Christian Kirk.
Yeah, a little bit of overkill at runner back, but that's good players.
Yeah,
and you're going to run the ball a lot.
We're going to run, and
Hampton's a really good fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Farmer and Harmon on the D line. Hairston's a nice pickup at corner.
Getting Christian Kirk and Jaden Higgins
for
your wide receiver
really added to your receiver room big time.
Yeah.
No, I like that.
Yeah. So.
And a developmental quarterback, we'll see.
Yeah, not
especially
bad.
If Wilson was a starter, that would make more sense with him.
Yeah. No, I like that. I mean, I think I can live with that.
Mm-hmm. I'm in. Trading down 3 times might be stretching things a little
bit, but
but
I mean, we moved completely out of the first round to pick up a bunch of day 2 picks.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of we have 5 picks on day 2.
And I know teams don't trade down 3 times in the real world, but if you still would have traded
somebody did that a couple years ago. Then Minnesota's
moved around a lot.
Yeah.
But if you went from 21 to 34? Is that our first pick?
Yeah.
You would have got similar compensation.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there might not be as many picks, but there have been higher ones or a next year second or something like that.
And the beauty of it is you're not using a first-round pick on the running back.
Mm-hmm. Right. But he's clearly my number 2 running back in a great running back class for the Steelers.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I think he'd fit well, too.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Of course, you can hear The Drive every Monday through Friday right here on these very airwaves. You can also download the Steelers mobile app, get the show there. And you can watch it along on YouTube and leave comments there. Tell us how much you hated the draft, the mock draft, or tell us if you liked it. Give us a thumbs up, whatever. We like all that stuff. Actually, I think if you give a thumbs up on YouTube, and I may be wrong about this, Tevin, I don't know if you know. If you give somebody a thumbs up on YouTube, it helps with their engagement. Yes.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah. So give us a thumbs
up.
up.
Sure, give us a couple.
Let more people see the show. Anyways, we're going to take a break. We'll be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, I don't know if you saw this over the weekend, but Matt Miller put out his list of players who are actually first-rounders.
Oh, I didn't see it, no.
this year's draft.
Okay.
And I wanted to get
basically,
to that.
no matter what year they come out, they have a true first-round grade. Yeah.
Now, he came up with 12 this year.
Okay. Doesn't surprise me.
Last year, there were 18. Usually, there's around 15. So last year's draft
was pretty good.
Was an outside the norm draft. And, oh, by the way, Troy Fautanu was one of his 18.
He was one of them. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it was heavy offensive, of course.
This year, it's 12. And let's get to that list here. Right now, he has no quarterbacks.
I was about to ask. I would have Cam Ward. I pretty much just finished up my initial quarterback ranks. I guess it depends how you quote it. Like, I would not have him over May or Daniels or Williams.
Well, that's what he says here. He said, look, they wouldn't be ranked ahead of Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, or J.J. McCarthy last year.
I would say he's about equal to my McCarthy grade from a year ago and better than Nix or Penix, not knowing what they did in the pros. I mean, knowing what I knew a year ago.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, to me, that's a first-round pick every year. Maybe not a blue chip, maybe not a guaranteed grade. He's got a lot of ability.
At running back, he has one player.
Sure.
Ashton Genty.
He's Bijan, Saquon special. Yeah, easily.
And if Ashton Genty were there at 21 for the Steelers,
I think you take him.
I think you take him.
He's that good.
Yeah.
Started to dig into the top running backs more. I was just, we were talking Hampton here. If the Raiders took him at 6, I'd totally understand. Especially if they signed Darnold.
If he were there at 21, it's a gift. You just take the gift.
And he's a special player. Yeah. You give him the ball a lot. That too.
At wide receiver, he only has one guy.
I say McMillan's the only one I think that gets it.
He only has Travis Hunter.
I would say Hunter's, what's he call Hunter? I think McMillan qualifies, though. I mean, is he special?
He wouldn't have broken. He wouldn't have cracked the top 18 last year.
I definitely would have Neighbors, Harrison ahead of him, and Adunze. Yeah. And, I mean, those guys were pretty easy.
And maybe even Brian Thomas, though.
Thomas is in that neighborhood.
Thomas is way more explosive than McMillan.
Thomas is one of the fastest guys in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying not to have any hindsight of what they did as rookies, but I love Thomas. And if the Steelers would have taken him in the mid-first round, I would have.
I think he was one of the 18 last. He might have been number 18 last year. It was all offensive guys on his list.
It was. But I think if I were just grading them from what I know, I'd probably have similar grades on McMillan and Thomas at the same age.
Tight ends, he has 2. Tyler Warren.
Loveland got it? Huh.
And Colston Loveland. He has Warren at number 9. He has Colston Loveland at number 11.
Okay, I mean, real solid player. I don't quite look at him at that light, but...
Well, here are the comps that he has. So for Tyler Warren, the comp is Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And Colston Loveland, his comp is Trey McBride.
I could see that, but that's a little rich, too. McBride's really good. Gronk bothers me. I've met Matt Miller a couple times. I think he does really, really good work. But that's it kind of reminds me of Jim Brown. Easy,
Offensive tackle. He has 2, surprisingly enough. Will Campbell at number 7 and Kelvin Banks at number 8.
I kind of think you can't have none.
Right.
But they don't.
They wouldn't be in. I don't know if either one of those two guys would crack the top 5 from last year.
I'll say, would you have him over Fuaga?
No.
Or Fashanu? Or Fuatanu?
No.
Not Alder Latham.
I mean, his comp for Will Campbell is Deion Dawkins, who's a fine player, but
he's also like 340 and thicker, more physical. A lot of people think Campbell might be a center. I mean, I think he'll be a good player.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's a better Skoronski.
Yeah. He's bigger.
Yeah, yeah.
The comp for Kelvin Banks is Rashawn Slater.
Maybe. That's aggressive, too. Slater's undersized, but he's one of the top 5 left tackles on the planet right now.
Is he?
Slater? Oh, I think so.
I think he's a good player. I don't know that he's a great player.
I think he's a big-time guy.
No interior offensive lineman.
Yeah.
3 edge rushers.
Okay. I can believe that.
He has Abdul Carter, number 1.
Okay. But I don't know that he's a slam dunk first edge off the board any year he comes out guy.
He has Jalen Walker, number 5.
Mm-hmm.
He has Michael Williams, number 12. The comps are, for Abdul Carter, the comp is Micah Parsons.
Again, he's a little lofty with his comps here.
He's a good player.
He is. But, I mean, we're talking about the best players in the league.
For Jalen Walker, his comp is Harold Landry.
That's actually not as kind as most of his comps have been. I think Walker's going to go high, though.
And for Michael Williams, it's Trayvon Walker. Both the Georgia guys, those aren't super great comps.
It's kind of a Georgia trait, though.
Yeah.
That a lot of them are super athletes, super recruits. Few of them are Jalen Carter, that have all the above.
Yeah.
One production and
defensive tackle.
Yeah, Graham.
Mason Graham and Matabuke is his comp for Graham.
Not a bad one. Okay.
No linebackers.
Yeah, I agree.
2 cornerbacks.
Okay. He didn't count Hunter as a corner, apparently. No. I mean, receiver first.
He has Will Johnson at number 3.
I'm fine with that.
He has Jahdae Barron at number 10.
Really? I would say I thought he maybe he'd put Benjamin or some of the injured guys,
He has the comp on Will Johnson is Patrick Surtain.
Again, and he's throwing around like the best players in the league here,
The comp for Barron is Brian Branch.
Yeah. I mean, that first segment when we traded out a couple times, Barron would have been my pick once or twice there.
Good player.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, like him a lot.
Yeah.
No safeties.
Yeah, of course.
So, again, I didn't give you his comp for Ashton Genty is Alvin Kamara. I think he's a tougher runner than Alvin Kamara. Not that Kamara can't run the ball, but you're going to give Ashton Genty the ball 300 times.
I forget what the stat was I heard the other day. It was just a running back show. That's all it did, and it was a PFF-oriented one. That he has more yards after contact this year, Genty, than like 12 running backs have had ever in a season, other than 12 running backs. Like at the college level. Like he has 1,800 yards after contact or something insane.
Yeah.
Where
that was not a great Boise State team.
That's what I'm saying. He's getting it on his own.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if you could give him Saquon holes with the Eagles type stuff,
His comp for Travis Hunter as a wide receiver, Odell Beckham.
Ooh, early Odell was a lot like him as an athlete. I mean, not the last 5 years version of Odell.
Yeah.
But I thought early in Odell's career, like year 2 through 5, Julio and AB were the best 2 receivers on the planet, and he was third. And looked like he was going to be that and never quite did.
Kept getting hurt.
Yeah, but he was a really explosive athlete. Everyone remembers the catch he made. But, I mean, there was like 3 years in a row in like the dynasty community, he was the first pick you would take, thinking what he is and what he'd become. That's a good comp.
But 12 guys on that list.
Yeah.
We could see that change after the combine. Somebody comes out and is better than what you thought, or
and I was wondering,
thought.
Will Loveland stay on there?
Yeah,
I mean, there could be one that just he runs a 4.8 or something, and is
slower than you thought, or Tedero McMillan goes out and
he might be a little slower than you think,
or he's faster than you thought.
It could be.
He runs a 4.48, and you're like at 6'5" and 220 pounds, and
he wasn't on there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was thinking he was. I've been told Will Johnson probably won't run super fast, but he'd have to run really slow for me not to get bumped from the list.
He'd have to be in the 4.6s.
Yeah, or high 4.5s at a minimum or something like that. Or
even at that.
Maybe he even refuses to run. I don't know.
That could happen.
Those guys all do that.
I mean, he's 6'2", 202 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big dude.
He's a big dude. He's great tape, and yeah. I know, like, Graham has short arms. We haven't seen that yet. How short are they? Will he be a great tester? Maybe not, but I'm not sure that's how he wins.
Yeah.
I don't know if there'll be a lot of change on there.
The short arm thing, to me, with the defensive tackles.
I don't think it's the end of the world.
I don't think it is either. I want motor.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a guy that just goes hard all the time. That's.
If I can get in on your body because of the get off and all that too.
That was Braden Fisk. Like people, Braden Fisk's arms are too short. I'm like, did you watch the tape?
He makes plays all the time.
Makes plays all the time.
What he does, right? And that translated.
Yeah.
I wonder if Ward or Sanders will get in there when it's all said and done. I can't imagine.
I don't think that they're going to do anything that's going to
Right.
What could they possibly do that would push them onto this list?
And I'm not making fun of Matt, but if it becomes clear that Ward's going to be the first pick in the draft,
He may put him on.
He may end up just getting in there. The Titans already know
just to have his name in there,
right?
And I get it. I mean,
right. I mean,
I do it with
Mel Kiper does that stuff all the time.
I do it with our rankings when we're putting together our list because
he's going first overall. I mean, okay.
I mean, I can. Last year, for example, I had Jaden Daniels number 1 on my quarterback list.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then it became, he's not going to go number 1. All right, I guess I'll put Caleb Williams up there because I don't want to be the only person beating that drum. Sometimes it's okay to be the only person beating that drum.
Mm-hmm. But in that instance, if you know guys going to be first and you don't have them in your blue chip 12 or whatever,
then you look
silly.
silly.
Looks a little weird.
Yeah. But it's quarterback.
But it is quarterback.
And I just don't know that this year's quarterback, I don't know that I would necessarily put them in there.
Sanders wouldn't for me. He takes a lot of sacks. He's not very physically imposing. He's not a great athlete. I think there's a lot of Tua to him.
Yeah.
But the ball doesn't come out as quick.
Here's the list from last year. He had Caleb Williams number 1, Jaden Daniels number 5, Drake May number 9. No running backs.
Okay, no other quarterbacks though.
5 wide receivers in his top 18.
So Thomas was one of them.
Yeah. So you Harrison, Adunzie, Neighbors, Brian Thomas. He also had a Donnie Mitchell in there.
Okay. I mean, I kind of get that at this stage of last year.
Yeah.
Big, strong, fast.
His comp was George Pickens.
Yeah. He fell for some Pickens-like reasons.
Yeah, he was number 18, though. He was the last guy.
He was the last guy that made the cut. Okay.
Brock Bowers was there in the tight end.
Sure.
4 offensive tackles. Alt, Fashanu, Fawaga, and Fatanu.
Not Latham.
Not Latham.
That surprises me.
Yeah. If you remember, a lot of people last year at this time thought Latham might be a guard.
It might be at this stage of the game.
Yeah. No
Not
interior
much on
offensive
defense.
linemen, 2 edge rushers, Dallas Turner and Jared Verse.
Verse was one of them.
1 defensive tackle, Byron Murphy.
Yeah.
No linebackers and 2 cornerbacks, Terrian Arnold and Quinion Mitchell.
Okay. I mean, none of that surprises me.
So when people talk about, I can't.
Donnie Mitchell's the one that's a little odd. But
you still get this the armchair quarterbacking or Monday morning quarterbacks. Like, the Steelers wasted that pick on Troy Fautano. No, he's going to be a good player.
Let's see. Yeah.
I mean, just because he missed the season with an injury and they didn't take, I get it. Quinion Mitchell went after him and Brian Thomas went after him.
Yeah.
But he's going to be a good player, and you don't want to be fishing in those waters this year.
No, I mean, I'm not saying it's apples to apples, but if you want to tell me they traded up for Broderick Jones and it should have been Christian Gonzalez, okay, we have 2 years of data to go off of there. Steelers' first round pick in this instance hasn't even shown you what he can do yet.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
like that's not even close to fair.
Yeah.
And there's also 8 million examples of that. Like, you took this guy at 10, but Aaron Donald went at 9. Like Eric Ebron went to pick after Donald. Well, that doesn't mean the Ebron pick was a bad one, or before Donald, or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't great, but there's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking there.
Absolutely. I did a show at the car show last Friday with Tim Benz, and he was like, yeah, I'm just not sold on the Steelers' last 2 draft classes. I'm like, you're not?
Yeah, really?
Like,
I mean, 4 guys were hurt last year.
Yeah, what don't you like about?
Yeah, I think it's been the best.
I get it. Okay, so you
want
to say, Broderick Jones hasn't lived up to that. Okay,
There's an argument there, yeah.
But what about the other guys?
Right. What about Porter and Benton? And
he's like, I thought Joey Porter took a huge step backwards. I'm like, I don't think that at all.
I didn't think so. I definitely didn't think so.
His tackling was much better this year. He was, he's
asked to do hard things.
Has to do a lot.
Yeah. Maybe I would have thought Benton was one notch higher by now, but I'm a big fan. I'm not the slightest bit worried. I was ready to think
he's a bust.
Right. Washington, to me, took a big step forward. No, I think these last two classes are foundational.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see the first-round pick in action before
I'd like to see that. I mean, we saw him in training camp last year. I thought in training camp last year he was their best offensive lineman.
Including Frazier, who was impressive too. And right.
So let's see what that works out to be before we start declaring that these last two drafts haven't been good.
Yeah. The O-line may have a very different feel, come November next year.
And that's the thing. If you hadn't taken Troy Fautanu last year, you'd either be re-signing Dan Moore this year, or you'd be drafting an offensive lineman in the first round this year.
That probably isn't a tackle.
That probably isn't going to live up to you got him last year,
right?
Because
you'd have something
ahead.
Else. You might have Brian Thomas or whatever.
Yeah.
Somebody like that, or Mitchell, or somebody like that, of course.
Which would be nice, but
no question. But tackles don't grow on trees either.
They do not.
I mean,
they should. It'd be a big tree.
That'd be a big tree. It's funny. I do remember though, as the pick was going in, those were the two I would have made: Frazier in the second round and Fautanu. And I remember thinking, if it wasn't either one of them, I would have taken Thomas or Adonai Mitchell, the guys that were available.
If those two players, just those two guys, work out to what you think that they can be, Frazier's already one of the top
He's over the
5 centers in the league.
He is.
If Fautanu turns out to be a top 5 right or left tackle, I don't care which one. Even if he's a top 10 right or left tackle, that's a slam dunk.
That's a massive draft in itself. Like, show my age, because I remember recruiting both these dudes. But when the Jets used 2 first-round picks on Mangold and DeBrickashaw Ferguson, they went from, in 2 years, a bottom 5 O-line to a top 8 O-line. Those were both perennial Pro Bowlers.
Yeah.
Change them. Left tackle and a center?
It just drives me crazy when I still see people saying, oh, they need to draft more offensive linemen. I'm like, they've used 5 picks on offensive linemen in the last 2 years.
Can we let them develop? Right.
How many do you need?
Yeah.
How many do you need to take here in the first 2 days of the draft before you're like, all right, we're good there?
So I love what the Eagles have done, and they're the topical team. They won the Super Bowl. But everyone just says draft lineman now because the Eagles beat the Chiefs. Well, they also have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley and Quinyon Mitchell and Bond, and they're kind of good all 22.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jalen Carter, they've used line. They haven't just drafted offensive linemen.
No,
they let those guys develop.
Yeah. And Mulatto was a 7.
Yeah. So again, I'm not ready to say, well, Broderick Jones is a bust. He's played 2 seasons in the end. He has a couple more starts now under his belt than what he had in college.
Yeah.
Like he's still 23. Let's not write his book just yet.
No, I agree on that one.
So, anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. That was Matt Miller's 2025 top
and 24
went through them both, and they don't all hit.
Oh, of course not.
Right away either.
Right,
I mean, just because you were a surefire first-round pick doesn't mean that you were a massive hit in your first year. I mean,
some of them play through injuries. Some of them hit rookie walls, go to bad situations. Some of them just aren't as good as you thought.
Absolutely. But let's get to a break. We'll be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, Trevor Lawrence today said that he actually came out. I don't know where he spoke or who he spoke to.
Yeah.
Said there was no chance that he was ever coming to Pittsburgh because he has a no trade clause in his contract.
It's a no trade clause. They have no GM, although that sounds like they're getting close on that. He has a no trade clause, and it would be a disastrous cap hit for them.
Other than that,
right,
makes perfect sense.
And they just hired a head coach to work with Trevor Lawrence.
Well, Pro Football Talk looked into this whole thing.
Okay.
Spoke to a source within the Jaguars, and he said, look, no call took place where the Steelers called up and offered anything for Trevor Lawrence or inquired or anything of the sort. It didn't happen.
It just didn't happen, right?
It didn't happen.
And whoever reported, I guess, is a reputable reporter. Maybe he's got bad information. I don't know. I'd never heard of the fella, to be honest with you. But we talk about this all the time. I mean, it's just so easy if you have a decent following on social media, just to put something out there and add your following, for that reason,
Yeah. So
I don't know, maybe they talked about Christian Kirk. Maybe they've had conversations with many teams about many things. That's what GMs do. But that never added up to me at all.
Yeah, just so we can stop talking about that. It didn't happen. And if it had happened, somebody would have had to have talked to Trevor Lawrence about it because, look, Trevor, you have to waive your no-trade clause.
Yeah,
That's
he
something.
just added to his contract.
Yeah.
1 year ago.
No, it wasn't going to happen.
No. When you look at trade, folks, you got to think of what both sides.
Right.
I mean, if I'm the Steelers, I'd be interested if I knew he was on the market.
Right.
Why on earth did the Jags trade Lawrence with all those things we have said?
This isn't Madden.
No.
You're not playing Madden where you can just, we're going to do this, and that's going to work.
He's the face of the franchise, and they just hired people around him to make them better.
So CBS Sports put out a little piece over the weekend
about Fields,
about Justin Fields, and their idea.
I didn't see it the same way they did.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah,
but their idea on what a contract for Justin Fields could look like if the Steelers wanted to give him one now before he tests free agency.
Mm-hmm.
Would be 2 years, $40 million with incentives that could reach up to $50 million. And they said, and Brian DiArdo wrote this. He said it would seem reasonable for both sides because Fields would be paid like he's a top 20 quarterback.
Right. And I understand you get more when you're on the free agent market than you would after, at different times of your career. Now, the one thing that I did agree with is at the bottom of the article, he basically says like Minshew's making like 11, and then there's no contracts in between. I mean, so originally I thought Fields might be 2 years, 25, heavily incentive laden. I've come to the conclusion that's probably low, but the numbers he put out seem extraordinarily high, unless they're way, way incentive laden. Like you got to hit, if you win the Super Bowl, you get a $5 million bet. I mean, like big things.
Well, Geno Smith is currently the 19th highest paid quarterback in the league, and he makes $25 million per year.
The league has a problem that there's nobody making 15, 16, 17, which makes no sense to me at all.
Which is part of the issue here.
It's a problem with
and it's part of the negotiating problem that you would have with this situation.
You have no comp contracts. If the Steelers go to him and say, here's 15 a year, he should sign that, in my opinion. He doesn't have to. He can do whatever he wants. But his agent goes, well, okay, that's nice, but who's your comp on that?
Right.
There isn't one.
We might be able to get such and so. We might be able to get this much. We might be able to get $20 million a year from the Jets, or we might be able to get $20 million.
I only need one of 6 or 7 teams to say, well, I guess that's a going rate.
And
we're going to do it. Right.
They start bidding against each other, and the next thing you know.
And I did a long podcast today about this, that to me there are 6 teams right now that frankly don't have a quarterback, Steelers being one. And my co-host goes, yeah, but there's only one good team on that list. What's the Steelers?
Right.
And it was fun hearing it from an outsider. He's like, that's way more attractive to me than going to the Jets,
right?
The
Which
Giants,
has kind of been our point all along.
Browns, etc.
Although you wouldn't know that from some Steeler fans.
Exactly. And I urge everyone to check it out. But then I also thought, after I read this afterwards, is if I'm Fields' agent, though, and my only goal is to get my client the most money I possibly can, these other 5 teams that don't have a quarterback are probably bad because they're not as smart as the teams that are good. And maybe they will give you the contract that we just talked about on CBS.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's a smart business move, but maybe you're bad for a reason and you give away bad contracts,
Gardner Minshew made $12.5 million this year.
Mm-hmm.
I knew when he signed that was a bad deal. You knew when he signed that's a bad deal.
Right.
I mean, but the Raiders signed it.
But if I'm Fields, I want more than that.
Right.
Yeah, and he has a very good cause to do that.
I'm a better player than Gardner Minshew.
Right. But you're not as valuable as Geno Smith, who's definitely a starter. I mean, that's the next contract up there. And like the Daniel Jones contract was a goofy one. The Baker one's a little weird. The one he signed before this one. There's no comps. I mean, there's several teams going through this that there's no middle class.
Even the Vikings deal for Darnold at over $10 million was a bad deal. Giving Sam Darnold $10 million for what he had put on tape over his first 5 seasons was a bad deal.
Like Fields is worth more than that version of Darnold. And I'm not saying he's a superstar. He's not. He's not a top 20 quarterback right now, which is what he's going to ask for. So that might be a stickier contract than it looks.
With 6 teams out there bidding for it,
it only takes one to say.
It only takes one,
and you get shut out on the other guy you liked or whatever.
Quite frankly, I would understand it completely if Justin Fields, who has never been through free agency, who's never made $10+ million a year, would want to make as much as he can.
Now, I also think and he's flat out said, I'd love to come back to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And I think that's
nobody
obvious.
I have yet to see the free agent that when you ask him, hey, do you want to come back here? They say, no, absolutely not.
Right. But I also think he would love to be in the same offensive system for 2 years in a row.
There's that.
He's had no continuity in his poor guy's career from that perspective. Is that worth $10 million a year less? No, but it might be worth $2 million a year less.
Right.
Whatever. And I'm not saying the Steelers are offering him 2 at 25. I have no clue. I don't know. But it's reading the article to me was like, I don't quite agree with this, but maybe this contract's stickier than I thought.
Here's what the Steelers won't do. They're going to come up with a number that they think is fair.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to make that offer to Justin Fields. They're going to make an offer to Russell Wilson. And they're not going to necessarily budge off of that number.
I mean, they'll negotiate to some degree, but they're not going to just
they're not
throw
on. They're offering you 20.
Yeah,
we're offering you 12.
Right. Since the Jets said it's a good idea, we're going to say yes, we agree.
That's how you run into. That's how you get yourself in trouble.
Right.
That's why you are a team like the Jets that consistently
we're in this
loses.
range.
Yeah,
and would like any negotiation, would rather get you at the low number than the high number because then we can go get another defensive back or whatever. But it is weird. I mean, the league is kind of a quarterback middle-class problem for contracts.
Yeah, just because there aren't enough good ones.
Mm-hmm.
There just aren't.
Right, and there's not a lot of people like in his shoes that still are valuable and have done good things but haven't proven themselves yet.
I mean, if you look at it, Geno Smith is the 19th highest-paid quarterback at $25 million a year. Well, there's 32 starting quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
And they're not all rookies.
True, right.
And there are 6 teams right now that don't have a quarterback.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean the math doesn't quite add up.
Yeah,
right. I still think incentives are the key. If he's your goal as a quarterback, Wilson aside, this is a conversation of who we prefer. It has to be. Well, if you play all 17 games, that's a $2 million bonus. If we get in the playoffs in any way, shape, or form, that's $2 million. If you account for 25 touchdowns, that's a $2 million bonus. Then I could. Prove yourself,
Yeah, right.
And 2 years we'll give you the 45 a year or 50 a year.
Or maybe after the first year you renegotiate. Like, no, you way outplayed that. That's what Baker Mayfield did.
Yeah, right. And there could be something like that too. Or the 3-year deal and that third one it really escalates. And we might be thrilled we're there, or you might get cut after 2, But it have to be somewhat incentive laden. You can't just lay it out as you're getting 20 a year because that contract doesn't exist in this league.
Right. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's show. So for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here on site running the soundboard and the Justin Miller hotline, and for Tevin Dandridge making sure that the video gets out there on YouTube, check that out. Give us a thumbs up. We appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
I am Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.